Now, there was a pact, a treaty that was concluded by Esarhaddon. Esarhaddon, we've met him. He's the Assyrian ruler. So there was a treaty between him and then Baal, the king of Tyre. When this treaty was concluded, several Phoenician gods were mentioned as guarantors of the treaty. The deities that were mentioned, the Phoenician deities that were mentioned were Baal Shaman, Baal Malagi, Baal Saphon, Milkat, and then Eshmun. So in the treaty that Esarhaddon is concluding with the king of Tyre, these were the deities that were mentioned as guarantors. In our biblical text, Yudhe will say he calls on heaven and earth as witnesses. The same thing here. Esarhaddon is calling these deities as witnesses in the conclusion of this treaty. Notably, in this pact, Melkat, the Baal of the Phoenicians, the chief deity, was seen as Tyre's protector god. Okay, we're going to read this treaty. Before we read it, let me pause this and show you where I'm getting it from so that it wouldn't be like I am just saying stuff. Let me show you. I think I gave you the link of this from last week, but let me put it in the chat again so that where is it? Right here. See it. Okay. So if you look on my screen, I hope you can see it. Let me maximize it. We're going to be looking at Esarhaddon's treaty with Baal, king of Tyre. This one here, that is what we're going to be looking at. And I'm going to be reading from this side. I have it in my PowerPoint, so I'll switch to my PowerPoint. But this is what we're reading. I'm going to put the link in the chat so that you can get to it later. Okay, let's read the treaty because it's telling. Esarhaddon's treaty with Baal, king of Tyre. The treaty of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, son of Sanherib, likewise king of Assyria, with Baal, king of Tyre, with his son and his other sons and grandsons, with all tyrants, young and old. And then you come to, I'll say verses 10. May Baal Shamayim, Baal of the heavens, Baal Malagi, and Baal Shaphon raise an evil wind against your ships to undo their moorings and tear down their mooring pole. May a strong wave sink them in the sea and a violent tide rise against you. May Malkut and Eshmun deliver your land to destruction and your people to deportation. May they uproot you from your land and take away the food from your mouth. I want you to remember that statement. Clothes from your body. I want you to remember that statement. And the oil for your anointing. I want you to remember this statement. Why am I saying remember this? These are things that Malkut is said to provide the Phoenicians. I repeat that. When it comes to food, when it comes to clothing, when it comes to oil, This is what is believed that Melkut provides his people. So what Asahandan is saying is that if you guys go against this treaty, Melkut and Eshmun will stop providing what you believe that they provide. They will deliver your land to destruction and your people to deportation. May they uproot you from your land and take away the food from your mouth, because that's what they provide. Clothes from your body, because that's what they provide. And the oil for your anointment, because that is what they provide. Okay. So, in this treaty, historically, we see that, yes, the Phoenicians had a few Baals. The chief one is Melkot. Asahandan uses them, mentions them as guarantors to this treaty. Okay, now to give more evidence of Malkut being a Baal, we go to another inscription from the Phoenician king Ashmun Azar II. If you notice, this king is named after the deity Ashmun that is mentioned with Malkut. Okay. Mr. Marvin, our chief deity, I would say the patron, because you know how those chief deities they are supplanted. So at a particular time, this god will be the one that is revered, but then it can change. So at this time, with the treaty with Asahandan, Malkut is the one that is sitting on top. But sometimes it changes, just like Baal will sit on top and then El is now pushed to the side. So in this inscription of this king, Ashmunazar II, he says, "We have built houses for the gods of Sidon, in Sidon, by the sea. The house of Baal of Sidon," he means Malkut, "and a house for Ashtad in the name of Baal." Ashtad is what the biblical text will call Ashtaroth. So here we see two gods paired together. We see Malkut, who is being referred to as the Lord here, Baal, and then Ashtaroth. Why do I bring this? Because certain biblical text recognizes the association between these two deities, Malkut and Ashtaroth. And that is Judges 2:13. "And they forsook Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh and served the Baal and the Ashtaroth." So this gives more evidence that this Baal that we are referencing is the Phoenician deity Malkut, however you pronounce her name. Okay, now we can go into the biblical text. Elijah, we are told, and Jehu are presented in the books of Kings as leading a revolt against the worship of Phoenician Baal as the god of Samaria. Following his introduction, and their action aimed to end the dynasty of the Omrites. The moment that marriage happened, we are told that Elijah and Jehu, the book of Kings present them as leading a revolt against the worship of the Phoenician Baal as the god of Samaria. So the Phoenician one is sitting in Samaria. There is Shasu one that was introduced by the Shasu sitting in Bethel. One thing you should know about the books of Elijah, the book of Kings, there's no book of Elijah, sorry. The book of Kings, where it mentions Elijah and Elisha, they are believed to have been written down independently in the kingdom of the north after the fall of the Omrites. So it's after the fact. This is important. Possibly a part of a black book of Baal is like a polemic against Baal, which is thought to have contained significant stories about Elijah. If you want a source to read it, you see the Black Book of Baal, the controversy against the god Baal in the Hebrew Bible in ancient Israel. So again, the stories of Elijah and Elisha are believed to have been written down independently. It's added into the book of Kings later in the kingdom of the north after the fall of the Omrites, possibly as part of a black book Baal, which is thought to have contained significant stories about Elijah. Elijah is described as a Tishbite and was active under the reigns of King Ahab and Acharias, both of whom were descendants of Omri. He is portrayed as the main figure in the battle between Yud-He, Vav-He, and Baal. If you want the fight between these two deities, you cannot but mention Elijah. And this is how he is introduced. Isn't there an apocalypse of Elijah? I don't know, Mr. Chauncey. I don't know that. But Elijah is introduced to us, and we are told, and Elijah the Tishbite. Well, there's no place that has been found by this name. That is why it's been suggested that the word Tishbite is a reference to Elijah's place of origin, though no such place is unknown. Some scholars say that, choose that. Mostly these days, nobody subscribes to that. So what does Tishbite mean? Well, maybe it's based on the word Toshab, or the concept, which refers to a foreigner or someone without their own land and thus dependent on others. So that is what Tishbite means. Doesn't mean that he came from a territory by name Tish. He's a Tishbe. No, that's not what's happening here. So he's introduced. And then we are told that he is sent somewhere. Let's read the narrative. Everything that I've said, you have to draw it to understand what is going on here. And the word of Yud-He Vav-He came to him, saying, Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon. Where is Sidon? Tyre is a Phoenician territory. Beautiful. Put that in your spirit because it's important. And sojourn there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to feed you. And he rose and went to Zarephath, and he came to the entrance of the city. And behold, there was a widow gathering wood. He called her and said, Please take to me a little water in a vessel, and I shall drink. And she went to take, and he called her and said, Take to me a morsel of bread in your hand. And she said, As dash your God lives, what would you put there? As dash your God lives. The text says, as the Lord your God lives. Which Lord is she referring to?
If she's in the Phoenician land, wouldn't it be Malkut?
Beautiful. Put that in your spirit. It's important. So the text used the Lord correctly because that's what Baal means. But you'll be tempted to read this as Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh is not her deity. She's in Sidon. The Phoenician territory is Baal Malkut. Beautiful, Mr. David. As Baal, your God, lives, if I have a cake, nothing but a handful of flour and a little oil in a flask. Behold, I am gathering 2 pieces of wood, and I will come and make this for myself and for my son, and we will eat and we will die. Elijah said to her, do not fear. Come and do as you said, but first make for me a small cake from there and bring it out to me, and for you and your son make last. For thus has spoken Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, the God of Israel. Notice what Elijah did. He's specific here. For thus has spoken Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, the God of Israel, not the Phoenicians. The pitcher of flour shall not end, nor will the flask of oil be diminished, until the day Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh gives rain upon the land. She went and did as Elijah had said, and she and he and her household ate many days. The pitcher of flour did not end, neither did the flask of oil diminish, as the word of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, which he had spoken through Elijah. Awesome. Can you decipher what is this
Rabbi,
narrative here for? Yes, please go ahead.
I thought it was Malkut who did the providing of
What did
food,
Malkut provide? Beautiful.
and not Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. So this is kind of like saying that when she mentioned Baal, he kind of makes Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh by this provision going on in greater than Baal, or at least able to do the same thing.
Correct. Flour is mentioned, that is food. Oil is mentioned. Did you remember the treaty Esarhaddon signs with Baal, the king of Tyre? Let's go back to that treaty. Look at what he said. May Malkut and Eshmun deliver your land to destruction and your people to deportation. May they uproot you from your land and take away the food from your mouth, clothes from your body, and oil for your ointment. These are the things that this deity, this Baal, provides. But in the woman's case, the Phoenician Baal is not able to provide these things. They are running out. She's got the last one. So, what is the narrative telling us? Elijah is sent to the Phoenician city of Sidon by divine command and is instructed to go to the house of a widow. Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, through Elijah, provides the widow with oil and flour, something which Baal, the Phoenician Baal, could not do. And this is an effort to counter the idea expressed in the treaty between Esarhaddon and the king of Tyre that Baal Malkut was a god offering sustenance and clothing. So, bam, one shot. Shots fired. It's one Baal, one storm god against the other. And what is being pushed is that the Baal of the Phoenicians is lacking because Elijah is trying to convince those in Samaria who are worshiping this other Baal that he's not a Baal at all. There's a clash, there's a battle between these two deities. It doesn't stop there. Right off the back, we are told